"Order in the court." The judge's voice thundered through the packed courtroom, his gavel striking the wooden bench with a force that sent a sharp echo bouncing off the walls. The gallery was silent, every person frozen in place. And then, like a bolt of lightning shattering the stillness, the defendant stood. His chair scraped against the floor, the sound piercing in the heavy silence. He raised his head, his eyes burning with a determination that made even the bailiffs shift uncomfortably. Then, in a voice that carried through the entire courtroom, he interrupted the judge. He spoke 5 words. The judge's face twisted in shock. The prosecutor's jaw dropped. The courtroom gasped. Nobody could believe what had just been said. The entire trial was about to take a turn that no one saw coming. Weeks earlier, the case had gripped the nation. Every major news outlet had its cameras stationed outside the courthouse. People whispered about it in coffee shops, barbershops, and grocery stores. Ethan Carter was on trial for a crime that had shocked the community. A single father of 2, he was a man with no prior record, no history of trouble. Yet, here he was, facing charges so serious that the mere possibility of conviction meant his life would never be the same. The prosecutor, Jennifer Holloway, was a force to be reckoned with. She was known for being ruthless, for digging into every corner of a case until she found exactly what she needed to destroy the defense. And in this trial, she had built what seemed to be an airtight case. The evidence? Overwhelming. The witnesses? Solid. The motive? Crystal clear. According to the prosecution, Ethan sat at the defense table, his hands resting on his lap. He barely moved as the prosecutor tore into him, painting him as a man with a hidden dark side. But those who truly knew Ethan knew better. They knew the kind of father he was, the kind of neighbor, the kind of friend who would give his last dollar to someone in need. And yet, none of that seemed to matter now. The jury sat motionless, their eyes shifting between the prosecution and the defense. The judge, an older man with silver hair and piercing blue eyes, listened carefully to every word. Then, in the midst of the tense proceedings, something happened that changed everything. A witness stepped forward. It was an old woman, fragile, her hands trembling as she walked toward the stand. Her presence alone caused murmurs to ripple through the courtroom. The prosecution looked confused. The defense attorney, Matthew Briggs, stood up. "Your Honor, this witness has something crucial to say." The judge adjusted his glasses. "Proceed." The woman sat down, cleared her throat, and looked directly at the prosecutor. "I need to tell the truth." Gasps spread across the courtroom. The prosecutor narrowed her eyes. "And what truth is that?" The woman turned to the jury. "Ethan Carter is not the man you think he is." Ethan's heart pounded. His attorney leaned in. "Stay calm," he whispered. Ethan clenched his fists. He could feel the weight of the room pressing down on him, the judgment, the doubt. The judge tapped his gavel lightly. "Go on." The woman inhaled deeply, her voice steady now. "I know something that changes everything." The tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a knife. The prosecutor folded her arms, skeptical. "And what exactly do you know?" The old woman hesitated. And then, the courtroom doors burst open. A man in a dark suit stormed in, his face flushed, his breath labored as though he had been running. The judge's brow furrowed. "Who are you?" The man's eyes darted to Ethan, then back to the judge. "I have evidence," he said, his voice shaking. "Evidence that will prove Ethan Carter's innocence." Another wave of gasps filled the room. The judge banged his gavel again. "This court is not a circus. If you have evidence, you'd better have a good reason for disrupting these proceedings." The man nodded and pulled a flash drive from his pocket. "This will change everything." The prosecutor's face drained of color. Ethan turned to his attorney, his pulse racing. And just when it seemed like the moment couldn't get any more intense, the judge sighed heavily. "Bring it forward." The man approached the bench, his hands shaking. The courtroom held its breath. Then, Ethan stood up, and for the first time since the trial had begun, he spoke. Interrupting the judge, he said 5 words. Everyone's world tilted in that instant. The judge's mouth fell open. The prosecutor went pale. The jury looked at one another in stunned silence. And the courtroom erupted. The courtroom was in chaos. Murmurs exploded into full-blown chatter, and the judge slammed his gavel repeatedly. Order! Order in the court! But no one could look away from Ethan Carter. He stood there, his hands gripping the edge of the defense table, his face steady despite the storm he had just created. His 5 words had landed like a bomb in the middle of the trial. Jennifer Holloway, the prosecutor, was frozen in place, her normally sharp eyes flickering with disbelief. The defense attorney, Matthew Briggs, turned to Ethan, his mouth slightly open as if trying to process what had just happened. The judge exhaled sharply and leaned forward. Mr. Carter. His voice was lower now, careful, controlled. Repeat what you just said. Ethan's gaze swept across the packed courtroom. The cameras were rolling. Reporters scribbled frantically. His children were watching from the back, their small faces half hidden behind their aunt. He took a deep breath. And then, he repeated it. The 5 words that had sent shockwaves through the trial. I know who did it. The courtroom erupted again. The judge slammed his gavel 3 times, his patience running thin. Mr. Carter, you have precisely 5 seconds to explain before I hold you in contempt of court. Ethan turned to the mysterious man who had burst into the courtroom, the one holding the flash drive. Their eyes met. I need that evidence, Ethan said firmly. The judge motioned to the bailiff. Retrieve the flash drive. The bailiff moved quickly, taking the small device from the man's hand and walking it up to the clerk. Jennifer Holloway's voice cut through the noise. Your Honor, this is completely unorthodox. The defense is attempting a last-minute stunt to derail this case. Silence, Ms. Holloway. The judge interrupted. I'll decide what's relevant in this courtroom. Holloway clenched her jaw but didn't speak again. The clerk plugged the flash drive into a laptop connected to the large screen in the courtroom. A folder appeared on the monitor. The room was so quiet that even the faintest sound of typing echoed. Then the first video file loaded, and when it played, the entire case flipped on its head. 3 months earlier, Ethan Carter's life had been normal. He worked as an auto mechanic, fixing cars during the day and helping his kids with homework at night. His daughter, Lily, was 10 and loved reading mystery novels. His son, Ben, was 8 and dreamed of being an astronaut. They lived in a modest house on a quiet street in Dallas. But all of that changed the night of the incident. Ethan had been locking up his shop when he heard the sound of shattering glass. He turned toward the source, a jewelry store across the street. The front window had been smashed in. The alarm screamed into the night. And then he saw them. 2 masked figures sprinting out of the store. One of them was holding a bag. The other? A gun. Ethan's instincts kicked in. He ducked behind a parked car just as the second figure turned, scanning the area. Seconds later, police sirens howled in the distance. The robbers panicked. One of them tossed the bag into a nearby dumpster before both bolted toward the alleyway. Ethan hesitated. Call the police? Chase after them? Before he could decide, a police car screeched to a stop. The officer jumped out, gun drawn. Freeze. Ethan raised his hands immediately. I'm not. On the ground. Now. Ethan dropped to his knees, his mind racing. The officer radioed for backup. Within minutes, more officers swarmed the scene. Flashlights, commands, handcuffs clicking into place. Ethan tried to explain. I was just... They didn't listen. He was thrown into the back of a squad car before he could say another word. By the time he realized what was happening, he was being booked for armed robbery. The second robber had vanished into thin air. And the first one? Dead. Shot by police in the alleyway. No witnesses to clear Ethan's name. No evidence in his favor. Just him, at the wrong place, at the wrong time. And the prosecutor? She made sure the jury saw only one thing. A man with grease-stained hands, standing near a crime scene, unable to prove his innocence. Until now. Back in the courtroom, the video played. The footage showed a street camera's view from the night of the robbery. Ethan wasn't in the store. He wasn't even near it. Instead, the 2 masked figures could be seen clearly. And then, for the first time, one of them turned their face slightly toward the camera. The room collectively gasped. It wasn't Ethan. It was someone else. Jennifer Holloway's face drained of color. She stood up. Your Honor, this footage... The judge held up a hand. Save it, Ms. Holloway. The video continued. It showed the police arriving, Ethan raising his hands, the real robbers running in the opposite direction. Ethan hadn't been lying. The evidence was undeniable. A deep silence filled the courtroom as the weight of the moment sank in. Ethan Carter had spent 3 months in jail. His children had cried themselves to sleep, believing their father was a criminal. His name had been dragged through the mud, and all along, he had been innocent. Ethan's hands clenched at his sides. He turned to the prosecutor. "You built your entire case on lies." Jennifer Holloway said nothing. The judge's voice was steady. "Mr. Carter, please sit down." Ethan slowly lowered himself into his chair. The judge exhaled. "This court will take a recess. We will reconvene in 1 hour." He banged his gavel. The courtroom burst into motion. Reporters rushed outside to break the news. The jury whispered among themselves. Ethan's lawyer turned to him, his voice hushed but firm. "We're not done yet. They'll try to spin this. Stay sharp." Ethan nodded. His heart was still racing, but his mind was clear. This wasn't over. And the people who had put him here? They weren't going to let him walk free without a fight. Ethan sat in the courtroom, his heart pounding against his ribs. The hour-long recess felt like an eternity. His lawyer, Matthew Briggs, was reviewing the footage again on his laptop, analyzing every frame. The evidence was undeniable, but Ethan knew better than to celebrate just yet. The prosecution wouldn't back down without a fight. Across the room, Jennifer Holloway sat at the prosecution table, her face unreadable. She wasn't a woman who lost cases easily, and Ethan could see the wheels turning in her mind. Finally, the court clerk called out, "All rise." The judge entered, looking more serious than before. He took his seat, adjusted his glasses, and turned toward the prosecution. "Ms. Holloway, you have some explaining to do." Jennifer Holloway stood up, smoothing her suit. "Your Honor, while this footage is compelling, I would like to remind the court that Mr. Carter was found near the crime scene, and the original evidence presented still suggests." The judge held up a hand. "Enough." His voice was sharp. "Ms. Holloway, this video directly contradicts your case. You built an argument based on circumstantial evidence, while withholding the possibility that Mr. Carter could be innocent." "I didn't withhold." The judge's eyes darkened. "Don't play games with me." A tense silence followed. Then, the judge turned to the defense. "Mr. Briggs, does the defense wish to make a motion at this time?" Briggs stood. "Yes, Your Honor. Given the new evidence, we move to dismiss all charges against my client immediately." Ethan barely breathed. The judge nodded slightly. He looked at Jennifer Holloway. "Prosecution?" She hesitated. Then, her shoulders stiffened. "Your Honor, while the footage may cast doubt, it does not conclusively prove that Mr. Carter was uninvolved. We must verify the authenticity of the video before making any rash decisions." A murmur spread through the courtroom. Ethan clenched his jaw. She wasn't going to let him go that easily. Briggs scoffed. "The footage comes directly from a city-owned street camera. Are you suggesting the city fabricated evidence?" Jennifer folded her arms. "I am suggesting we do our due diligence before dismissing a case of this magnitude." The judge tapped his fingers on the bench. "Then we will proceed cautiously. I will allow an expert to authenticate the footage. Until then, Mr. Carter will remain in custody." Ethan's stomach dropped. "No," Briggs argued. "That is unjust. This footage is enough to create reasonable doubt. You cannot continue to hold an innocent man." Jennifer Holloway's lips curved slightly. She knew what she was doing. The judge exhaled. "I understand your frustration, Mr. Briggs, but given the seriousness of the charges, I will not be rushed. Court is adjourned until tomorrow morning." The gavel came down. Ethan's hands clenched into fists. Tomorrow. That meant another night in jail. Another night away from his kids. Another night where the world still saw him as a criminal. He turned to his lawyer. "She's dragging this out on purpose." Briggs sighed. "She knows she's losing but doesn't want to admit it." 2 bailiffs walked over. "Mr. Carter, let's go." Ethan felt his pulse in his ears. He wanted to fight, to protest, but what good would it do? He stood up and let them take him away. The trial wasn't over yet, and something told him that the worst was still ahead. The next morning, Ethan sat in his holding cell, staring at the ceiling. He hadn't slept. His mind was spinning, replaying every moment of the past few months. Then, footsteps. A guard unlocked his cell. "Carter, you've got a visitor." Ethan sat up. "Who?" The guard didn't answer. He was escorted to a small visitation room. When the door opened, his breath caught. Lily and Ben, his kids, his sister, Emily, stood behind them, her eyes red from crying. "Daddy!" Ben ran forward, wrapping his arms around Ethan's waist. Lily followed, burying her face in his chest. Ethan's throat tightened. He held them close, his fingers gripping their small shoulders like they might disappear if he let go. "I'm so sorry," he whispered. Emily sat down across from him. "They needed to see you." Ethan swallowed hard. "Are they okay?" She nodded. "They're scared. But I told them you're coming home soon." Ethan looked down at Lily and Ben. "I promise I'll fix this." Lily's voice was small. "Why don't they believe you?" Ethan forced a smile. "Sometimes, people believe what they want to believe, sweetheart." Ben sniffled. "I miss you." "I miss you too, buddy." Ethan kissed the top of his head. Emily cleared her throat. "I've been doing some digging. That prosecutor, Holloway, she's known for being aggressive. And I think she's hiding something." Ethan's brows furrowed. "Like what?" Emily lowered her voice. "I have a friend who works in the DA's office. He says Holloway pushed hard to get this case to trial. Almost like she wanted you convicted before any real evidence was even found." Ethan's stomach twisted. Why would she do that? Emily shook her head. "I don't know. But something's off." Ethan glanced at his kids, then back at Emily. "I need you to keep them safe. No matter what happens." Emily nodded. "Of course." The guard knocked on the door. "Time's up." Ethan hugged his kids tightly. "I love you both so much." "We love you too," Lily whispered. Emily squeezed his hand. "Stay strong." And then they were gone. Ethan sat there, his hands shaking. Holloway was hiding something, and he needed to find out what. Back in court, the tension was thick. The judge entered, and everyone took their seats. The expert witness was brought in, a digital forensic analyst. He took the stand, swore under oath, and examined the footage in front of the entire court. Minutes passed in silence as he analyzed the video. Then he looked up. "This footage is 100% authentic." The courtroom erupted. Briggs shot to his feet. "Your Honor, with this confirmation, we again move to dismiss all charges against my client." The judge turned to Jennifer Holloway. She was staring at the screen, her hands gripping the table. For the first time, she looked worried. "Miss Holloway?" the judge prompted. Jennifer's jaw tightened. Then, to everyone's shock, she stood up and said, "Your Honor, I request a private meeting in chambers." The gallery erupted into confusion. Briggs frowned. "What is this about?" Jennifer didn't look at him. The judge exhaled. "Fine. Counselors, to my chambers. Court is in recess." The gavel banged. Ethan's mind raced. Jennifer Holloway was panicking, and that meant only one thing. She had something to hide. The judge's chambers were silent, the air thick with tension. Ethan wasn't allowed in. Only his lawyer, Jennifer Holloway, and the judge sat at the polished wooden table. The door closed behind them, shutting out the whispers from the courtroom. Judge Reynolds folded his hands. "Miss Holloway, this is highly unusual. What exactly do you want to discuss?" Jennifer Holloway's face was unreadable, but there was a flicker of something in her eyes. Something Ethan's lawyer, Matthew Briggs, noticed immediately. Briggs leaned forward. "If this is another stunt to delay the inevitable, I'm not interested in wasting time." Jennifer exhaled, then did something no one expected. She pulled out a folder from her briefcase and slid it across the table toward the judge. Judge Reynolds picked it up, opened it, and frowned. His eyes scanned the papers inside, his expression darkening with each second. Briggs tapped his fingers impatiently. "What is that?" Jennifer turned to him. Her voice was low. "I think you're about to understand why I fought so hard to convict Ethan Carter." Briggs narrowed his eyes. "Enlighten me." Jennifer took a deep breath. This case was never about the robbery. The room fell into silence. Judge Reynolds closed the folder and placed it on the table. He rubbed his temple. "This just became much more complicated." Briggs snatched the folder, and flipped through the documents. His jaw clenched. These are surveillance reports. He shot Jennifer a glare. You had Ethan Carter under surveillance before the robbery even happened? Jennifer nodded. Briggs's voice turned sharp. What exactly are you accusing my client of? Jennifer's lips pressed into a thin line. Then, in a quiet voice, she said, Ethan Carter wasn't just a random man near the crime scene. He was being watched. And not by me. Briggs froze. Who was watching him? Jennifer exhaled. The FBI. The room went ice cold. Judge Reynolds sighed, leaning back in his chair. Jennifer, you'd better start explaining. Now. Jennifer Holloway straightened in her seat. Months before the robbery, Carter was flagged by federal agents for possible involvement in something much bigger than this case. Briggs shook his head. This is ridiculous. My client is a mechanic, a single father. What could the FBI possibly want with him? Jennifer's face darkened. That's the part one could never figure out. Judge Reynolds frowned. Are you telling me this case was manipulated from the start? Jennifer hesitated. I'm saying, someone wanted Ethan Carter locked away. Someone powerful enough to push this case forward, regardless of the facts. Briggs leaned in, his tone deadly serious. Who? Jennifer didn't answer right away. Instead, she glanced at the judge, then back at Briggs. Then she whispered a name. Briggs paled. Judge Reynolds sat up straighter. That's a very dangerous accusation. Jennifer nodded grimly. That's why I wanted to talk in private. Briggs clenched his fists. If this is true, then Ethan Carter was framed. Jennifer nodded again. Judge Reynolds steepled his fingers. If this information gets out, this case will explode into something much bigger than a robbery trial. Briggs's voice was ice. You should have come forward with this sooner. Jennifer's expression turned hard. You think I wanted to be part of this? I was just a prosecutor assigned to a case. I didn't realize what I was walking into until it was too late. Briggs scoffed. And now that you're losing, you decide to talk? Jennifer held his stare. I don't expect you to trust me. But if you want to save Ethan Carter, you need to listen carefully. Briggs stayed silent. Judge Reynolds folded his arms. Miss Holloway, what do you propose we do next? Jennifer hesitated. Then she said, we need to find out why Ethan Carter was targeted. And we need to do it fast. Briggs shook his head. The man's been rotting in jail for months, and you're telling me this case is bigger than we thought? Jennifer's voice was firm. If we don't uncover the truth, Ethan Carter won't just be facing a wrongful conviction. She leaned in, her voice barely above a whisper. He might not make it out alive. Back in his holding cell, Ethan sat on the cold bench, staring at the concrete wall. His conversation with his kids replayed in his mind. Lily's small voice. Ben's tearful eyes. He had to get out of here. But before he could sink deeper into his thoughts, the door creaked open. A guard stepped in. But this time, it wasn't one of the usual ones. This one was taller, bulkier, and he didn't make eye contact. Something felt off. The guard closed the door behind him, locking it. Ethan tensed. What's going on? The guard didn't answer. Instead, he reached into his pocket and pulled out something small. A folded piece of paper. Ethan hesitated, then slowly took it. The guard leaned in, his voice low. Don't trust anyone. Ethan's blood ran cold. What? But before he could ask anything else, the guard turned and walked out, locking the door behind him. Ethan's hands shook as he unfolded the paper. There were only 3 words written on it. You're being watched. His stomach twisted. What did that mean? Who sent this? And more importantly, who was watching him? Before he could process it, another set of footsteps echoed down the hall. A different guard appeared. Carter, let's go. Court's back in session. Ethan swallowed hard. He tucked the note into his pocket, forced himself to stand, and walked out of the cell. His instinct screamed that something was very, very wrong. And as he entered the courtroom again, he realized this wasn't just about proving his innocence anymore. This was about survival. Ethan stepped into the courtroom, his mind still racing from the note. You're being watched. Who wrote it? The guard? Someone on the inside? And why now? As he took his seat at the defense table, Matthew Briggs leaned over. Something's off. Ethan clenched his jaw. You think? Briggs lowered his voice. Holloway knows something. And she's scared. Ethan glanced across the room. Jennifer Holloway sat stiffly at the prosecution table, gripping a pen so tightly that her knuckles were white. She wasn't just scared. She was terrified. The judge entered and took his seat. Let's proceed. Jennifer cleared her throat and stood up. Your Honor, the prosecution would like to. The courtroom doors swung open with a bang. A man in a dark suit strode inside. His presence sent a ripple of unease through the room. He didn't look like a lawyer. He didn't look like he belonged here at all. Briggs immediately straightened. Who the hell is that? The judge frowned. Excuse me, sir. This is a closed proceeding. The man pulled out a badge. FBI. Ethan's stomach dropped. The judge's face darkened. Agent, you are interrupting a trial. You'd better have a good reason. The FBI agent didn't flinch. Your Honor, I need to speak with the prosecution. Privately. Briggs shot to his feet. Absolutely not. This is a courtroom, not a backroom deal. Jennifer Holloway, however, looked like she had expected this. She exhaled sharply and looked at the judge. Your Honor, I agree. A recess is necessary. Ethan's pulse pounded in his ears. No. Something was happening. Something bigger than this trial. The judge hesitated, then sighed. Fine. Court is in recess. He banged his gavel. The courtroom erupted. Reporters whispered, cameras flashed, and Ethan turned to Briggs. Briggs grabbed Ethan's arm. We need to find out what's going on. Now. Ethan nodded. I'm not waiting around to be blindsided again. Briggs turned to one of his legal assistants. Follow them. See where they go. The young assistant, a nervous man named Derek, swallowed hard but nodded. On it. As Holloway and the FBI agent disappeared through a side door, Derek slipped out after them. Ethan turned to Briggs. You really think this is FBI level? Briggs's expression was grim. I don't know. But if the feds are involved, you're in deeper than I thought. Ethan clenched his fists. Someone wants me gone, Briggs. Briggs nodded. Yeah. And we need to find out who. 20 minutes later, Derek returned, his face pale. Briggs immediately pulled him aside. What did you hear? Derek glanced around nervously. Not much. But I caught one thing. Ethan leaned in. What? Derek hesitated, then whispered. They're trying to bury something. Ethan's breath hitched. What does that mean? Derek swallowed. I don't know. But Holloway wasn't arguing. She was listening. Briggs narrowed his eyes. Which means whatever the FBI told her was serious. Ethan's chest tightened. And dangerous. Briggs exhaled. We need to move fast. Ethan looked toward the judge's chambers. Whatever was happening behind those doors, it wasn't just about a robbery trial anymore. And whoever wanted him behind bars, they were powerful enough to use the system against him. 20 minutes later, the judge returned to the bench. Jennifer Holloway walked back to her seat. But something was different. Her expression was blank. Too blank. Ethan's gut twisted. Judge Reynolds cleared his throat. We are back in session. Ethan leaned toward Briggs. Something's wrong. Briggs nodded. She looks like she just saw a ghost. Holloway stood. Your Honor, the prosecution. She hesitated. The room fell dead silent. Then she finished. The prosecution moves to drop all charges against Ethan Carter. The courtroom exploded. Ethan's breath caught. Briggs blinked. What? Jennifer's hands trembled slightly as she set her papers down. The state has decided not to proceed further with the case. Ethan gripped the table. That's it. The judge sighed. Given the new evidence, I find this to be the only appropriate course of action. Mr. Carter, you are free to go. Briggs shot to his feet. Your Honor, this is outrageous. My client's life was ruined by this case. He deserves an explanation. Jennifer Holloway didn't look up. The judge glanced at her, then at Ethan. Mr. Carter, I suggest you take this victory and walk away. Ethan's pulse pounded in his ears. No. The entire room stilled. He stood up, and in a voice that cut through the courtroom, he said, I want the truth. The judge's jaw clenched. Jennifer Holloway's eyes finally met his, and in them, Ethan saw something he never expected. Fear. A deep, unsettling fear. She opened her mouth. Then, the lights flickered, and the fire alarm went off. Pandemonium erupted. Ethan turned to Briggs. Briggs grabbed his arm. "We need to get out of here." But Ethan wasn't moving, because deep down, he knew this wasn't an accident. Someone was making sure he never got his answers. And whoever they were willing to go to any lengths to keep the truth buried. The courtroom descended into chaos. The piercing wail of the fire alarm mixed with the frantic shouts of attorneys, reporters, and onlookers as they scrambled for the exits. The judge banged his gavel, but no one was listening. Ethan stood frozen in place, his body rigid. He knew this wasn't a fire drill. Briggs grabbed his arm. "Ethan, we need to move. Now." Ethan's eyes darted across the room. Jennifer Holloway was gone. The FBI agent was nowhere in sight. "Where did she go?" he demanded. Briggs barely had time to respond before a uniformed officer pushed through the crowd. "Mr. Carter, come with me." Ethan hesitated. His instinct screamed trap. Briggs stepped between them. "On whose orders?" The officer's face remained expressionless. "The judge wants Mr. Carter escorted out safely." Briggs wasn't convinced. Then why isn't the judge here to say it himself? The officer's jaw tightened. "Sir, we don't have time for this." Ethan exhaled sharply. His gut told him not to follow. But before he could make a decision, a loud bang echoed from somewhere in the courthouse. Gunfire. Screams followed. People shoved past them, desperate to get out. Ethan's blood turned ice cold. Briggs. Briggs shoved him. "Go." The officer grabbed Ethan's arm and yanked him toward the emergency exit. Ethan didn't fight. Not yet. He needed to get out of the open. His mind raced as they rushed down a side hallway, the sounds of panic fading behind them. Then the officer spoke, his voice lower now. "Listen to me, Carter." Ethan stiffened. "Someone wants you dead." His stomach dropped. "Who?" The officer didn't answer. Instead, he pulled a key card from his pocket and swiped it against a security door. The lock clicked. He pushed it open, revealing a back stairwell. "Go down 2 floors. There's a parking garage. Get in a car and leave." Ethan narrowed his eyes. "Why are you helping me?" The officer hesitated. Then he muttered, "You're not the bad guy here." And just like that, he turned and walked away. Ethan watched him disappear around the corner. His heart hammered. He had a choice. Stay and risk whoever had fired that gun coming after him, or take his chance and run. He turned and ran. Ethan burst into the dimly lit parking garage. His breath came in short gasps, his mind running faster than his legs. He had no plan, no clue where to go. Then, from the corner of his eye, he saw movement. A black SUV, engine running, tinted windows. A chill crept up his spine. He ducked behind a pillar, his pulse pounding. Who was inside? The people trying to kill him? The FBI? A door opened. Ethan braced himself. Then, a voice. Familiar. Urgent. "Ethan, get in." He turned and saw her. Jennifer Holloway. His entire body tensed. She was behind the wheel of the SUV, the passenger door open. Ethan didn't move. "Why should I trust you?" She didn't answer. Instead, she lifted her hand, showing him her phone screen. A text message. "He won't make it out alive." Ethan's breath caught. Who sent that? Jennifer's face was pale. "I don't know. But if you don't get in this car right now, you won't live long enough to find out." Ethan hesitated. Then, the sound of approaching footsteps snapped him into action. He didn't have a choice. He jumped into the passenger seat. Jennifer hit the gas. The SUV screeched out of the garage, tires burning against the pavement. Ethan turned in his seat, looking out the rear window. And that's when he saw them. 2 men in dark suits, standing at the garage entrance. Watching him, Ethan turned back around, his jaw clenched. "Start talking." Jennifer gripped the wheel. "I don't have all the answers." "Then tell me what you do know." She exhaled. "The people who set you up. They're not done with you." Ethan's hands curled into fists. "Why me?" Jennifer's lips pressed into a thin line. "Because you know something you're not supposed to." Ethan's mind reeled. "What are you talking about?" "I don't know anything." Jennifer didn't blink. Are you sure about that? Ethan was about to argue. But then a memory flickered in the back of his mind. The night of the robbery. The masked men running. The bag one of them threw into the dumpster. His chest tightened. Could that be it? Jennifer glanced at him. What is it? Ethan's voice was quiet. I think I saw something that night. Jennifer's grip on the wheel tightened. Then we need to find out what. Ethan swallowed hard. Because deep down, he knew. Whatever was in that bag was the reason his life had been destroyed. And if he didn't figure it out soon, he might not live long enough to tell the truth. The SUV sped through the dark streets, weaving between traffic as Jennifer gripped the wheel tightly. Ethan's mind was spinning. His entire world had been turned upside down in a matter of hours. He turned to Jennifer, his voice sharp. I need answers. Now. Jennifer didn't take her eyes off the road. I already told you. I don't have all of them. Ethan's patience was running thin. Then tell me what you do know. Jennifer sighed, then glanced at him. That night, the night of the robbery. You said you saw something? Ethan clenched his fists. Yeah. One of the robbers threw a bag into a dumpster before running. Jennifer's expression darkened. Did you see what was inside? Ethan shook his head. No. But I remember exactly where it was. Jennifer exhaled sharply. We need to find that bag. Ethan frowned. Why? What's in it? Jennifer hesitated. If I had to guess, something worth killing for. Ethan's stomach twisted. Great. Just what I needed. Jennifer ignored his sarcasm. Listen to me, Ethan. If that bag is still where you last saw it, we might have proof that you were framed. But if it's gone... Ethan swallowed hard. Then whoever's after me already has it. Jennifer nodded grimly. Ethan stared out the window, his mind racing. He wasn't just fighting for his innocence anymore. He was fighting for his life. 20 minutes later, they pulled into a deserted alley behind an old row of buildings. The streetlights flickered weakly, casting eerie shadows across the cracked pavement. Ethan's eyes locked onto the rusted dumpster at the far end. That's it, he muttered. Jennifer killed the engine. Stay close. They stepped out of the SUV, their shoes crunching against broken glass and gravel. The air was thick with the smell of damp garbage and oil. Ethan moved first, pulling the lid of the dumpster open. His pulse pounded as he peered inside. Trash. Empty boxes. A few rats scurrying away. No bag. His heart sank. It's gone. Jennifer cursed under her breath. Someone got to it first. Ethan ran a hand through his hair, frustration bubbling inside him. So what now? Jennifer scanned the area, her expression unreadable. Then she pointed at a security camera mounted on the wall of a nearby shop. Maybe it saw who took it. Ethan followed her gaze. You think we can get the footage? Jennifer gave him a dry look. We don't have a choice. They hurried to the shop's back door. Jennifer knocked hard. A few seconds later, the door creaked open, revealing an old man in a wrinkled button-up shirt. He squinted at them. We're closed. Jennifer flashed a badge Ethan knew wasn't real. FBI. We need your security footage. Ethan stiffened. Wait, what? The old man's eyes widened. FBI. Jennifer nodded, stone-faced. It's a matter of national security. The old man blinked, then grumbled. Fine, but make it quick. He led them inside to a dusty back office filled with old monitors and a desk cluttered with receipts. Jennifer pointed at the screen. Show us last night's footage. The old man typed a few keys, rewinding through the grainy black and white video. Ethan's breath caught when he saw movement near the dumpster. A dark figure approached, looking around cautiously. Then, they reached into the dumpster and pulled out the bag. Ethan leaned in. Can you zoom in? The old man grunted. This isn't CSI, kid. But I'll try. He adjusted the screen. The figure's face was still mostly hidden, but something stood out. A logo on the sleeve of their jacket. Jennifer's eyes narrowed. That's a government-issued windbreaker. Ethan's blood ran cold. You're telling me a federal agent took that bag? Jennifer sat back, her expression grim. That means whatever was inside. It wasn't just stolen goods. Ethan clenched his fists. Then we need to find that agent. Jennifer nodded. And fast. They drove in silence. Ethan's mind raced with possibilities. If the government had taken the bag, then this was bigger than he ever imagined. Finally, Jennifer spoke. "There's someone I need to see." Ethan frowned. "Who?" Jennifer's grip on the wheel tightened. "An old contact. He used to work in intelligence. If anyone can tell us what's going on, it's him." Ethan exhaled. "Do I even want to know how you have these connections?" Jennifer smirked slightly. "Probably not." Ethan shook his head. "Fine. Where is he?" Jennifer hesitated. Ethan's eyes widened. "Washington? As in the Washington?" Jennifer nodded. "If we want answers, that's where we have to go." Ethan stared at her. Then he glanced in the rearview mirror. A black SUV was following them. His heart pounded. "Jennifer." She saw it too. "I know." The SUV sped up. Jennifer gritted her teeth. "Hold on." She slammed the gas pedal. The tires screeched as they tore down the highway. The black SUV followed, closing in. Ethan's pulse pounded. "This is not how I expected my day to go." Jennifer swerved into the next lane, dodging a slow-moving truck. "Welcome to my world." The SUV rammed into their back bumper. Ethan cursed. "They're trying to run us off the road." Jennifer's knuckles turned white. "Not happening." The SUV pulled up alongside them. The passenger window rolled down. A gun barrel emerged. Ethan's stomach dropped. "They're gonna shoot." Jennifer didn't hesitate. She yanked the wheel hard to the right, sending their car smashing into the SUV. The impact sent both vehicles skidding. Jennifer fought for control as the SUV spun out, slamming into the guardrail. Ethan twisted in his seat, watching the wreck in the side mirror. The SUV's driver stumbled out, dazed. Jennifer exhaled sharply. "We need to disappear. Now." Ethan didn't argue. Because whoever was after them, they weren't going to stop. Not until Ethan Carter was dead. Jennifer didn't slow down until they were well out of the city, the distant lights of Dallas fading behind them. The highway stretched ahead, endless and dark, as the weight of what had just happened settled in. Ethan sat in the passenger seat, his heart still racing. "They tried to kill us." Jennifer's grip on the wheel tightened. "Yeah, and they're not done." Ethan exhaled sharply, running a hand over his face. "This is insane. First, they framed me. Now they're trying to wipe me off the map." Jennifer glanced at him. "I told you. Someone powerful wants you gone." Ethan shook his head. "This isn't just about a bag anymore. This is something bigger." Jennifer nodded. "And whatever was in that bag, it's the key." Silence settled between them as the car sped down the empty road. Ethan's mind raced. Who was behind this? Why him? He was just a mechanic, a father. None of this made sense. Finally, he broke the silence. "Your contact in D.C., can he really help us?" Jennifer exhaled. "If he's still alive." Ethan stiffened. "What?" Jennifer shook her head. "He used to work deep inside intelligence. People like him. They either go off the grid or they disappear permanently." Ethan swallowed hard. "And you think he'll talk to you?" Jennifer smirked slightly. "He owes me a favor." Ethan gave her a sideways look. "Why do I feel like your favors involve a lot of gunfire?" Jennifer shrugged. "Not always." Ethan sighed. "Great. Just great." He leaned back, staring at the ceiling. He had gone from being a falsely accused man in court to being hunted by people with government ties. And the worst part? He still had no idea why. Hours later, they pulled into a gas station in a small town outside of Louisiana. Jennifer cut the engine. "We need supplies." Ethan nodded. "And new clothes. We're way too recognizable." Jennifer agreed. They stepped inside the convenience store, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. The air smelled of coffee and cheap air fresheners. Jennifer grabbed some snacks, while Ethan picked out a plain hoodie and a baseball cap from a dusty rack. As he approached the counter to pay, the cashier, a middle-aged man with tired eyes, glanced at the TV screen behind him. A breaking news banner flashed across the screen. "Wanted. Ethan Carter, escaped criminal." Ethan's stomach dropped. The news anchor continued. "Authorities are searching for Ethan Carter, who fled custody following shocking new developments in his trial. He is considered armed and dangerous." Ethan's pulse pounded. "Jennifer." She turned, saw the screen, and cursed under her breath. The cashier looked from the TV to Ethan, his brow furrowing. Hey, you look kind of familiar. Ethan forced a smile. I get that a lot. Jennifer moved fast. She placed a $100 bill on the counter. We were never here. The cashier hesitated. Then he pocketed the bill and nodded. Never saw you. Ethan exhaled in relief. They grabbed their stuff and bolted out the door. Back in the car, Jennifer gripped the wheel. They're making you public enemy number one. Ethan clenched his fists. They're turning the whole country against me. Jennifer's expression darkened. Which means they're getting desperate. Ethan frowned. Why? If they already have the bag, why go through all this trouble? Jennifer didn't answer right away. Then she said, maybe they don't have it. Ethan's breath caught. What? Jennifer's eyes stayed on the road. If they were sure they had what they needed, they wouldn't care if you disappeared. But if they're still after you, it means they think you might still have something. Ethan's chest tightened. But I don't. Jennifer looked at him. Are you sure? Ethan opened his mouth to argue, then froze. A memory flickered. The night of the robbery. The dumpster. Not just the bag, but something else. He had seen a piece of paper flutter to the ground when the thief tossed the bag. He had picked it up without thinking and shoved it into his pocket. Later, after he had been arrested, his clothes had been taken as evidence. But what if the paper was still in his old clothes? His pulse pounded. Jennifer, I think I do have something. She turned sharply. What? Ethan exhaled. My clothes. The ones they took when they arrested me. Jennifer's eyes widened. Where are they now? Ethan clenched his jaw. They should be in evidence lockup in Dallas. Jennifer cursed. We just left Dallas. Ethan looked at her. We have to go back. Jennifer exhaled through her nose. If we go back, they'll be waiting for us. Ethan nodded. Yeah, but that paper, whatever was on it, it might be the proof we need. Jennifer was quiet for a long moment. Then she muttered, This is suicide. Ethan smirked. Then I guess we're already dead. Jennifer rolled her eyes. That's not funny. Ethan turned serious. We have to do this. Jennifer sighed. Fine. But if we're doing this, we're doing it my way. Ethan raised an eyebrow. Which is? Jennifer smirked. Breaking into a police station. Ethan groaned. Oh, come on. Jennifer put the car in gear. Buckle up, Carter. We're going to war. Ethan closed his eyes. What could possibly go wrong? The plan was reckless. Impossible. And yet, as Jennifer drove them back toward Dallas under the cover of night, Ethan knew it was their only shot. The evidence lockup at the Dallas Police Department was a fortress. Cameras, armed guards, electronic access codes, and they had to break in. Jennifer glanced at Ethan. You sure about this? Ethan exhaled. No. Jennifer smirked. Good. Means you're not completely insane. Ethan shook his head. This is insane. Jennifer's hands tightened on the wheel. Then let's make it count. They drove in silence for a while, the tension thick between them. Finally, Jennifer spoke. We're not walking in through the front. Too many cameras. We go underground. Ethan frowned. Underground? Jennifer nodded. Service tunnels. The city has miles of them beneath the streets. Some connect to the police department. Ethan exhaled. And you just know that? Jennifer smirked. I used to be a prosecutor, remember? I know all kinds of things. Ethan shook his head. Remind me to never get on your bad side. Jennifer grinned. Too late. An hour later, they stood outside an abandoned maintenance and trance. The old metal door rusted and covered in graffiti. Jennifer picked the lock in under 20 seconds. Ethan raised an eyebrow. Should I be concerned about how good you are at that? Jennifer smirked. Only if I ever decide to rob you. Ethan rolled his eyes. Comforting. They slipped inside, descending into the damp, dark tunnels below the city. The air smelled of mildew and rust. Water dripped from pipes overhead. Ethan followed Jennifer closely as she navigated the maze of passageways. You've done this before, haven't you? Jennifer didn't answer, which meant yes. Finally, they reached a rusted metal grate. Jennifer pulled out a small crowbar from her bag and pried it open. Beyond it, a dimly lit corridor. Jennifer peered inside. We're directly below evidence storage. Ethan swallowed hard. And the part where we don't get caught? Jennifer smirked. That's up to you. Ethan groaned. Great. Inside the police station, every second felt like an eternity. Jennifer moved fast, bypassing security checkpoints with an ease that made Ethan question everything about her past. Finally, they reached the evidence room. Jennifer pulled out a stolen keycard and swiped it. The lock clicked open. They slipped inside. Rows of shelves stretched before them, each filled with labeled bags, boxes, and confiscated items. Ethan scanned the tags. I was booked 3 months ago. My stuff should be in Section B. Jennifer nodded. Move fast. They weaved through the shelves, searching frantically. Then, Ethan spotted it. A plastic evidence bag labeled Carter, Ethan. He grabbed it, tearing it open. His old clothes spilled out. His jeans. His work shirt. His boots. Jennifer frowned. What exactly are we looking for? Ethan dug through the pockets of his jeans. His fingers brushed against something crumpled. He pulled it out. A small, torn piece of paper. Jennifer leaned in. What is it? Ethan unfolded it carefully. The ink was faded, but the writing was still legible. One sentence. One address. Jennifer's breath hitched. That's a government building. Ethan's stomach dropped. What? Jennifer nodded, her face pale. That address belongs to a federal storage facility. Ethan's pulse pounded. You're telling me the robbers weren't after jewelry? Jennifer shook her head. No. They were after whatever was inside that building. Ethan's hands tightened around the note. This was it. This was why they had framed him. Why they had tried to kill him. Because somehow, he had ended up with the one piece of evidence that could expose them. Jennifer's voice was barely a whisper. We need to go. Now. But before they could move, a voice rang out behind them. Put your hands where I can see them. Ethan's blood ran cold. They turned slowly. 2 officers stood at the door, guns drawn. The lead officer, a burly man with a scar across his cheek, stepped forward. You really thought you could just walk in here? Jennifer's jaw clenched. Well, it was worth a shot. The officer smirked. Too bad it ends here. Ethan's heart pounded. Was this it? After everything. Was this where it all ended? Then, a sudden crash echoed from the hallway. Shouting. Gunfire. The officers turned toward the noise. Jennifer moved fast. She grabbed a metal evidence box and swung it at the first officer's head. He crumpled. The second officer raised his gun, but Ethan lunged at him, knocking the weapon aside. Jennifer grabbed Ethan's arm. Run. They bolted from the room, sprinting down the hallway as more officers flooded in. Alarms blared. Footsteps pounded behind them. They turned a corner and nearly collided with a familiar face. The officer from the courthouse. The one who had warned Ethan. He didn't hesitate. He threw a key fob at Jennifer. Garage. Black sedan. Go. Jennifer caught it without question. Ethan's mind reeled. Who are you? The officer just shook his head. I don't have time to explain. Get out of here. And stay hidden. Jennifer grabbed Ethan's wrist. Let's move. They ran. The garage was only a floor away. They burst through the doors, scanning the rows of cars. Jennifer spotted the sedan. They dove inside. Jennifer slammed the gas. The tires screeched as they tore out of the parking structure. Behind them, officers stormed the garage, too late. Ethan's breath came in heavy gasps. His hands shook. Jennifer gritted her teeth. We just made the FBI's most wanted list. Ethan exhaled. Yeah. He looked down at the paper in his hand, at the address that had nearly gotten him killed. Then he looked at Jennifer, and for the first time, he knew exactly what they had to do. We're going to that building. Jennifer didn't argue, because she knew, just like he did, this was the end game. One way or another, the truth was waiting, and it was time to uncover it. The black sedan tore down the highway, the city lights shrinking in the rearview mirror. Jennifer drove with a steady focus, but Ethan could feel the tension in the air. The paper in his hands felt heavier than it should have, like it carried the weight of something bigger than them both. The address. A government storage facility. The missing link to the entire mess. Ethan exhaled sharply. How long until we get there? Jennifer checked the GPS. 3 hours. Ethan ran a hand through his hair. They're going to be waiting for us. Jennifer smirked. Of course they are. Ethan shot her a look. And that doesn't bother you? She shrugged. I've been in worse situations. Ethan shook his head. You seriously need a new career. Jennifer grinned. I hear bounty hunting pays well. Ethan exhaled. You're unbelievable. Jennifer's smirk faded. I'm serious, Ethan. If we go in there, there's no turning back. Ethan clenched his fists. I stopped looking back a long time ago. Jennifer nodded. Then let's end this. They drove in silence for the next 2 hours. Ethan thought about his kids, about Lily and Ben waiting for him, not knowing if he was alive or dead. He thought about the people who had framed him, who had destroyed his life. And he thought about the paper in his hand. One torn scrap, one address. And yet, it had nearly gotten him killed. What was inside that building? And why was it worth murdering innocent people to keep it hidden? Jennifer's voice cut through the silence. We're almost there. Ethan snapped out of his thoughts. The GPS showed they were minutes away. Jennifer slowed the car, pulling off onto a dirt road that led into the woods. Ethan frowned. Why are we stopping? Jennifer cut the engine and pointed ahead. Ethan followed her gaze, and his breath caught. In the distance, nestled in the trees, was a massive, fenced-off compound. Security cameras lined the perimeter. Armed guards patrolled the entrance. Floodlights illuminated the grounds. It wasn't just a storage facility. It was a fortress. Jennifer exhaled. This isn't going to be easy. Ethan swallowed hard. Tell me we have a plan. Jennifer smirked. Of course we do. Ethan raised an eyebrow. And that plan is? Jennifer's smirk widened. We improvise. Ethan groaned. That's not a plan. Jennifer winked. It is if you're good at it. Ethan shook his head. We're gonna die. Jennifer patted his shoulder. Not if we move fast. She opened the trunk and pulled out a duffel bag. Inside were black clothes, gloves, and a set of wire cutters. Ethan frowned. You just happen to have all this? Jennifer grinned. I like to be prepared. Ethan sighed. Yeah, sure. They changed quickly, blending into the shadows. Then, without another word, they slipped into the woods. They moved fast, staying low as they approached the fence. Jennifer cut through the metal wiring, making a small opening just big enough for them to slip through. Ethan's heart pounded. The guards were close, their radios crackling with static. Jennifer whispered, "Stay quiet." Ethan nodded. They darted between storage containers, creeping toward the main building. Jennifer pulled out a small device and pressed a button. A security camera in the distance fizzled and shut off. Ethan stared at her. Seriously, who are you? Jennifer smirked. I told you. I have connections. Ethan shook his head. Remind me to never piss you off. Jennifer's smile faded. We're almost there. They reached the side door. Jennifer pulled out a lock-picking set and got to work. Seconds later, the door clicked open. Ethan exhaled. You really need a new job. Jennifer winked. Maybe after this. They slipped inside. The air was cold. The building smelled like dust and old metal. Rows of storage units stretched before them, each marked with a code. Jennifer checked the paper. We're looking for Section 12C. Ethan scanned the signs. That way. They moved quickly, their footsteps silent. Then, a voice echoed through the hall. Hey, who's there? Ethan's heart stopped. Footsteps. Getting closer. Jennifer grabbed his arm and pulled him into the shadows. A guard rounded the corner, shining a flashlight. Jennifer's grip tightened. Ethan held his breath. The guard scanned the area. Then, after a moment, he grunted and turned away. Jennifer exhaled. Close. Ethan whispered. Too close. They moved fast, reaching Section 12C. Jennifer pulled out her lock-picking kit again. Ethan kept watch. Seconds felt like hours. Then, the lock clicked. Jennifer pushed the door open. Inside was a single metal table. And on that table, a black briefcase. Ethan frowned. That's it. Jennifer approached carefully. Looks like it. She flipped the latches and opened it. Inside were stacks of documents. Photos. Files. Jennifer grabbed the top page and read it. Then her face went pale. Ethan frowned. What? Jennifer's hands shook. Ethan. This isn't just a robbery cover-up. Ethan's stomach tightened. Then what is it? Jennifer swallowed hard. This is a kill list. Ethan's blood ran cold. What? Jennifer flipped through the pages. Names, photos, targets, and then Ethan's own face. Jennifer's voice was barely a whisper. They weren't trying to frame you. Ethan's hands trembled. They were trying to erase you. Before he could respond, a gun cocked behind them. Step away from the case. Ethan turned slowly. A man in a dark suit stood in the doorway, a silencer attached to his pistol. His face was blank. His voice was calm. You weren't supposed to find that. Ethan's heart pounded. Jennifer cursed under her breath. The man sighed. You should have just stayed dead. Then he pulled the trigger. A deafening crack. A flash of light. And everything went dark. Ethan barely had time to react. The gun fired, but Jennifer was faster. She yanked the briefcase off the table and swung it upward, slamming it into the gunman's wrist. The shot went wide, hitting a metal storage unit with a deafening clang. Ethan lunged, tackling the man before he could fire again. They hit the ground hard. The gun skidded across the floor. The agent snarled, twisting beneath Ethan, trying to overpower him. He was trained, fast, dangerous. But Ethan was desperate. With everything he had, he drove his elbow into the man's throat. The agent choked, his body convulsing. Jennifer didn't hesitate. She grabbed the fallen gun, aimed, and fired. The silenced shot barely made a sound. The agent went still. Silence. Ethan's chest heaved. His hands were shaking. His pulse roared in his ears. Jennifer lowered the gun. We need to go. Ethan swallowed hard. He pushed himself to his feet, his legs unsteady. They'll know we were here. Jennifer grabbed the briefcase. They already do. Ethan exhaled sharply. What's in those files? Jennifer didn't answer right away. Instead, she flipped through the pages, her face unreadable. Then, her fingers tightened. Ethan frowned. What? Jennifer hesitated. Then she turned the page around, showing him a list of names. Familiar names. Judges, prosecutors, business leaders, people who had died under suspicious circumstances in the past 5 years. Ethan's breath caught. Are you telling me? Jennifer nodded grimly. They were assassinated. Ethan's stomach twisted. But why frame me? Jennifer exhaled. Because someone needed a distraction. Ethan's hands clenched. A distraction from what? Jennifer flipped to the last page. And there, at the very bottom of the kill list, Ethan Carter. His head spun. His name. His face. He had been next. Ethan's breath came in shallow gasps. I don't understand. Jennifer's jaw tightened. Think, Ethan. What do you know? What have you seen? Ethan shook his head. I'm just a mechanic. I don't know anything. Jennifer stared at him. Then, her face changed. She grabbed another document from the briefcase. A grainy surveillance photo. Ethan's eyes widened. Because standing in the center of the photo was him. 3 years ago. Outside a government building. Ethan's pulse pounded. I don't remember this. Jennifer's expression darkened. Then someone does. Ethan tried to breathe. To think. Had he seen something? Overheard something? Or worse, had he done something? Jennifer grabbed his arm. We have to go. Now. Ethan's voice was barely a whisper. Jennifer, what if I was part of something? Jennifer met his eyes. Then we need to figure out why they want you dead before they catch us. Ethan's head spun. None of this made sense. But one thing was clear. They were out of time. Jennifer shoved the briefcase into his arms. Move. Ethan forced his legs to work, following her toward the exit. They slipped through the storage facility, staying low. The hallways were eerily quiet. Too quiet. Jennifer's fingers hovered near her stolen gun. I don't like this. Ethan exhaled. Neither do I. They rounded a corner and froze. For armed men stood at the exit, their weapons raised, waiting for them. Ethan's heart pounded. A man in a suit stepped forward, calm and collected. You've caused quite a mess. Jennifer's grip tightened on the gun. The man smiled coldly. Hand over the briefcase. And maybe, we'll let you live. Ethan clenched his jaw. Not a chance. The man sighed. I was hoping you'd say that. He snapped his fingers. The armed men raised their guns. Ethan's pulse roared in his ears. Jennifer whispered, "Get ready to run." Ethan barely had time to process the words. Because then, all hell broke loose. Gunfire exploded. Jennifer shoved Ethan behind a crate, firing back. The armed men scattered, dodging bullets. Ethan clutched the briefcase, his breath ragged. They were trapped. Nowhere to run. Jennifer cursed. "We need another way out." Ethan scanned the room. Then, his eyes locked onto a loading dock. A delivery truck, engine running. A driver standing nearby, oblivious to the chaos. Ethan grabbed Jennifer's arm. There. Jennifer saw it. She fired another shot, hitting a guard in the leg. Then, she ran. Ethan followed, the briefcase clutched to his chest. Bullets whizzed past. Jennifer reached the truck first. She yanked the door open, shoving the driver aside. "Sorry, buddy." Ethan dove into the passenger seat. Jennifer hit the gas. The truck roared forward, smashing through the facility's gate. Ethan twisted in his seat, watching as the armed men vanished in the dust. His heart pounded. They had escaped. For now. Jennifer gritted her teeth. "We need to disappear." Ethan exhaled sharply. "And then what?" Jennifer glanced at him, and in that moment, Ethan saw something in her eyes. Something dangerous. Something determined. "We take them down." Ethan swallowed hard. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about revenge. And for the first time since this nightmare began, Ethan wanted it. They weren't running anymore. They were coming for the people who had tried to kill him. And this time, they weren't stopping. The truck barreled down the highway, the weight of the stolen briefcase pressing against Ethan's lap. The sun was beginning to rise, casting a dull orange glow across the road ahead. Neither he nor Jennifer had spoken for the past 20 miles. They both knew what was coming. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about ending this. Jennifer finally broke the silence. "We need leverage." Ethan exhaled. "We have a kill list with high-profile targets. We have proof they tried to erase me. What more do we need?" Jennifer's grip tightened on the wheel. "Names aren't enough. We need faces. We need to know who ordered this." Ethan ran a hand through his hair. "And how exactly do we do that?" Jennifer smirked. "By forcing their hand." Ethan frowned. "I don't like the sound of that." Jennifer's voice was calm. "We leak the kill list." Ethan's stomach dropped. "That's suicide." Jennifer nodded. "Probably." Ethan exhaled. "How do you even know where to send something like this?" Jennifer's smirk widened. "Remember when I said I have connections?" Ethan groaned. "Of course you do." Jennifer pulled out her phone and began typing. Ethan watched as she sent an encrypted message to someone named Kingmaker. He raised an eyebrow. "Who the hell is Kingmaker?" Jennifer grinned. "Someone scarier than the people trying to kill us." Ethan sighed. "Great." Within minutes, Jennifer's phone buzzed. She glanced at the message and smirked. "It's done." Ethan's pulse quickened. "What did you just do?" Jennifer locked her phone. "Sent the list to every major journalist, hacker, and whistleblower I know." Ethan's stomach twisted. "You want them to come after us?" Jennifer's expression turned serious. "I want them scared. When people like this lose control of the story, they panic. And when they panic, they make mistakes." Ethan exhaled. "I hope you're right." Jennifer grinned. "I'm always right." Ethan shook his head. "You're impossible." Jennifer winked. "And yet, here we are." It didn't take long for the world to react. By noon, the kill list was everywhere. News channels, underground forums, social media. The names of powerful figures, some alive, some dead, were exposed for the world to see. The public demanded answers. And within hours, the real enemies made their move. Ethan and Jennifer had barely finished eating when Jennifer's phone buzzed again. She checked the screen. Then, her smirk faded. Ethan frowned. "What?" Jennifer's voice was quiet. "They want to meet." Ethan's pulse pounded. "Who?" Jennifer turned the phone around. A single text message. "Meet us. 1 hour. Come alone." Ethan exhaled. "It's a trap." Jennifer nodded. "Obviously." Ethan shook his head. "We don't even know who they are." Jennifer's expression darkened. "I think it's time we find out." They arrived at an abandoned warehouse outside the city. Jennifer parked the truck and turned to Ethan. Stay sharp. Ethan forced a smile. Wouldn't dream of doing anything else. They stepped inside. The air was thick with dust. Shafts of light cut through the broken windows. And then, a voice. Mr. Carter. Ethan turned. A man stood at the far end of the warehouse. Older, gray-haired, expensive suit, flanked by 2 armed guards. Jennifer tensed. And you are? The man smiled. Someone who would rather you hadn't gone digging. Ethan clenched his jaw. Too late for that. The man sighed. Indeed. Jennifer's fingers hovered near her gun. Why frame Ethan? The man smiled slightly. Because he was convenient. Ethan's breath hitched. That's it. The man tilted his head. Does it really matter? Ethan's fists clenched. It does to me. The man chuckled. You're here because you think this is about justice. It's not. It's about power. Control. We decide who gets erased. Who gets remembered? Jennifer smirked. Not anymore. The man's eyes darkened. You shouldn't have sent that list. Jennifer grinned. You shouldn't have tried to kill us. The man sighed. A shame. He raised a hand. His guards lifted their weapons. Ethan's pulse pounded. Jennifer. She didn't wait. Her gun was already out. She fired. The first guard dropped. The second lunged, but Ethan reacted fast, grabbing a rusted pipe from the floor and swinging hard. The man crumpled. Ethan turned, just in time to see Jennifer aiming at the older man. He smirked. Go ahead. Jennifer exhaled. Then, she holstered her gun. The man's smirk widened. Smart choice. Jennifer's expression was ice. Not really. She stepped aside. And behind her, 3 black SUVs pulled up outside the warehouse. Ethan frowned. Who? Jennifer smirked. The people who really run things. The warehouse doors burst open. Men in tactical gear stormed in. The older man's face finally changed. Fear. Ethan barely had time to process what was happening before the men grabbed him. Jennifer crossed her arms. You thought you were untouchable, didn't you? The man struggled. You have no idea who I work for. Jennifer grinned. Actually, I do. And they're very unhappy with you. Ethan stared at her. You set this up? Jennifer smirked. Like I said, I have connections. The older man struggled. This isn't over. Jennifer shrugged. It is for you. The men dragged him out. Silence settled over the warehouse. Ethan exhaled. I can't believe that worked. Jennifer grinned. You have to think bigger, Carter. Ethan shook his head. What now? Jennifer stretched. Now? We disappear. Ethan frowned. That's it. Jennifer smirked. Unless you want to stick around. Ethan exhaled. Nope. I've had enough excitement for a lifetime. Jennifer grinned. Good answer. She tossed him the keys to the truck. Ethan caught them. Where are we going? Jennifer winked. Anywhere but here. Ethan shook his head. Then, for the first time in months, he smiled. The nightmare was over. He was finally free. And whoever had tried to erase him, they would never see him coming.